So the big question is this: how are real estate agents like us, who didn't cheat and take on venture capital and are spending money from our own pockets, how do we compete with these billion-dollar real estate tech companies and iBuyers in a way that lets us bring our services and the things we believe in out into the world and still remain profitable? That's the big question. And on this podcast, we'll give you the answers. Welcome to the iBuyer experiment.
What is up?
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy podcast day.
Happy podcast day. I like that. All right.
So, always hot off the press with a lot of things right now. I mean, Zillow continues to be hot. Inman, I know, was recently stirring up the news with some crazy valuations, and there seems to also be a lot of fluff out there about knock right now, right? Which
Knock. What's knock?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
A new way to buy your next home.
What do they call it? The home.
Buy your next home.
Swippy
Who?
swappy. The home swippy swappy. The swippy swappy.
So who wants to take it? Let's start off by, for the listeners, who wants to give a good high-level overview of how knock works?
I think Keith really
why don't you,
can
Keith?
explain it very well. We took the training, right?
Yeah.
We took the
So
training a couple months ago.
I perceived everything properly, the way that knock works is they'll come in, do a home evaluation, say, your home was worth XYZ. That's how they underwrite the deal to see how much available equity you have in your home versus, what you owe on the property. Then they'll give you a backup, and they'll give you an offer that they clearly communicate that it's backup. That's
right.
worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That way they still want you to list your house on the open market. And in the event you just can't get your house sold, they kind of say within that 6-month time frame and you need to get out, then maybe that offer works for you. So that's kind of from the seller perspective of how the initial process works. Then you get fully underwritten. Then what they do is they take 6 months of your available equity out, and they use that to pay your mortgage. So that way that money's set aside. You'll get pre-qualified through them because they're the preferred lender. There's not a contingency because they've underwritten you for the current house that you have and the new home that you're going to purchase. So the cool part is you don't have a contingency, which is a big thing in this market. So that's a huge perk. And then you go out, you find your new home, you write an offer, you get it accepted, do the typical real estate process, and you close. You move out of your old home. And then they have that 6 months of payments that they're going to, cover that they took out of your equity. That's how you're covered. Mm-hmm. So you're still swinging 2 payments.
Yep, that's what
it's
I was
just
gonna
that
say.
6 months of that is kind of taken up front out of your equity. Then when you're living in your home, the agent that you choose puts your house on the open market. And as soon as they sell it, then anything that you have left over versus the cost of the sale all comes out of your net proceeds on your property. So from how I understood it, that's kind of an overall breakdown of how that program works. So it's cool, but I do see some negatives that could, I don't think it's quite as powerful as what they used to offer, I guess, just from my personal perspective.
Jay, what are some of the negatives?
What are the negatives? Well, the negatives are you have 2 payments, right?
It's a big negative.
You're going to have... They take 6 months. They probably don't give you the cash.
We asked that question.
We did. And
They hold it.
They don't give you the cash. They actually hold it, and they make the payments for you. So they obviously don't trust the homeowner to take the cash and go to the casino. And
Can you blame them?
Hookers and blow.
yeah. And so that's a big one right there. I guess I'm saying it's a negative compared to what we offer, what Zoodealio offers in our Trade-In Plus. So, with our Trade-In Plus, we're buying the house directly from them, and they don't have another payment. They go to the next house.
Yeah, it's done.
Now,
Done deal.
I think that, we've been talking with venture capitalists, obviously, because we have a really great idea and it's working really well in the Phoenix market, and we're looking to scale it across the country. So we're definitely looking for capital for Zoodealio. And one of the capitalists that we talked to was saying that really the opportunity lies in the ability to explain these programs very easily and simply to the consumer. And like as Keith was explaining the knock program, I like it just gets exactly after 4 or 5
Yeah,
of
if
the
this,
then
then
that,
this,
then this,
then
then
that.
this, and you're just going, whoa. So
The consumer's like,
if that's us as real estate professionals,
Missed it.
what's that going to be like for, you know, your actual homeowner?
I missed it. It was
Oh,
this.
no, it's the one above it.
Oh,
That's what Jay was looking
Okay.
for.
I
Little
have no
little
idea
little
what's going
little
on.
sidebar humor for
But
those.
seriously though, it's like, how do you explain these things? Even our program, it's actually not very complicated, but it does take, there's a little bit of a learning curve. Like, who
Well, it's just
wants-
because it's new, right? Like, I mean, I'll challenge that it's more simple. It's just
okay,
it's brand new.
let's explain our program. Who wants to take that?
well, Elliot says it's simple. So like,
All right.
explain it in a very simple matter. You got a
I got
homeowner
this.
right now.
Hit it.
Got
right in
this
front of you saying,
because
"Hey,
we've been having to say
how do
it
I
a
trade in
whole
my
lot."
house?"
So first of all, the trade-in is a 2-part process. You first get a cash offer on your house where you get to pick the close date. Simultaneously, you get approved to buy your next house. Your agent takes you out shopping. You identify the house. Zoodealio steps in and buys that house in cash on your behalf. In that same time frame, you are finishing getting approved from on your new mortgage. After we take the house down, your mortgage closes. You move from your old house to your new house. At the same time, we physically close on your house. Actually, we physically close on your house right before we buy your the new house. That was the
So
one
they
step
close
I
on
missed.
the old house.
Close on the old house first, close on the new house second. They move from the old house to the new house. Then the agent, after they've moved out, then the agent relists their existing house. And when they successfully sell it, they get their upside escrow holdback. And if it sells for more, they get the difference. And that's how it works. Just a simple.
What's the upside? Hold back.
So I noticed that
You missed that part.
You skipped a couple parts.
So the
This is,
upside.
here's the thing. This is like these programs. They are hard to explain.
They are.
But I think once the consumer wraps their heads around it, they can
not
understand
hard.
it.
I like I said, I mean, despite me missing one little thing there, like I said, I was trying to be ultra simple. But the escrow holdback, right? Like that is our security instrument at the end of the day, right? When we give you a full bona fide market value offer, and how we do that to mitigate the risk of purchasing a property is it's all based on the condition, how long it's going to take to sell, the general absorption rate of the property in the marketplace. And that's going to range anywhere from 5 to 12% of that offer price. And like I said, after your agent, keyword your agent, successfully lists and sells that property, you get every dollar of that escrow holdback returned to you.
So you're telling me that 5 to 12% of the equity that I have in my house, when you buy it from me, is set aside in an escrow holdback account until it's resold on the open market with the agent that I picked.
That is correct.
And once it's resold, I get that money back. If it's resold for more, I get that money back plus the difference.
That is correct.
If it sells for less, I get that money back minus the amount that it sold for less.
That it sold for under what we purchased it. Yep.
Okay. Seems pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty clean.
I already know it though, so.
It's clean. There are a lot of steps. I think the benefit to a seller is, okay, you're telling me that if I can just wrap my head around this program, I can avoid having to get my house ready for the market, having to endure showing after showing, having to endure, all of these people coming through my home and all of the stress of that. And so I think that that's really the beauty of it.
Exactly. I mean, thinking about like, what a house has to look like now when you go
Oh.
to sell it, right?
Right.
And when you have 2 kids, dogs, a mother-in-law living in the house, and your theater room is full of boxes, and you just haven't put away stuff, and you don't necessarily have a perfect house. You don't have that
Right.
model-looking house, right? So what does that cost to do all that, and how much time does it take that consumer to do? And to be able to just go, you know what, forget all that. I'm going to do this process, not have to do any of that, and still get the upside. I'm not selling to Open Door for 30% under value. I'm Open Door, OfferPad, or Zillow. I'm going to sell for full value, abstain of or hold back 5 to 12% of my equity until it's sold on the open market, and then I get it.
Yep.
And then
Okay, but
I basically sold for full price.
You did sell.
Yeah, you did,
Price.
and I love our trade-in program, and I also love that it's the ultimate listing retention tool. I think that agents, when they have a seller that ends up selling to one of these big iBuyers or to Zillow, what happens is they lose the listing, and even if that iBuyer is paying them a referral fee, like I think right now OfferPad is paying 3%, which sounds great on
With
the surface.
lots of criteria.
Yeah,
behind
with
it.
lots of
there's some
criteria.
sticking points.
But even though they're getting, some sort of referral fee, whatever, the benefit of having a listing on the market and having inventory is invaluable. And then also, though, one of the things that I'm hearing a lot and I'm reading a lot about in the forums is, of course, Zillow now is having a live offer. So the Zestimate is a live offer. And so now sellers are going to be able to
Dangling
go
carrot
on.
at all times.
Yeah, and get that initial live offer. So here's what I'm hearing, and I think that this is going to ring true, and I want to get our thoughts on this. What I'm hearing is that for the next, maybe 18 months to 2 years, or to, maybe even 3 years, the sellers that choose to take that live offer are going to get an amazing offer, because it's going to be a lost lead for Zillow, and Zillow's going to want to put it out there that we got them top dollar. They're going to get all these raving fans.
Yeah, they're going to get hit with a massive inspection. No, I'm sorry if I stole your thunder. 'Cause that's where you're going to go.
No, what people are saying is actually they're not. It's going to be.
They're gonna buy their
They're going to do what
Buy the
Compass
market
did to
share.
grow.
their favor. Yeah.
They're going to go out and they're going to.
I don't know. I have been reading in some of the same forums that all the Zillow offers are always usually pretty good, and they're continuing to just punch people in the mouth in the inspections. One other thing I think we should discuss right now is just we obviously had this experience firsthand, where we have a Zoodealio subscriber that a client of theirs had submitted their house to us for an offer, and of course we weren't aware of it at the beginning, but come to find out that they did have an offer from OfferPad that's actually existing on the property. We made an offer on that house for a substantial amount more than what they got from OfferPad. They then in turn went back to OfferPad and asked them, well, hold on, let me take a step back. That offer we found out was made on the property back in November. However, they've recasted the closing date with them, right? So they're under contract. They, under contract with them since November. Obviously, the market has changed a whole bunch since then. And so now, in order to get out of that contract, right, which, again, I do understand that a contract is a contract, but OfferPad is making them pay a 1% fee to get out of that, which, again, all of us know that's existed, that they have their 1% cancellation, which I think is a BS thing on OfferPad, because that's one of the great things that the iBuyer, brings in. We don't charge people to cancel their contracts. Open Door doesn't. Zillow doesn't. Right? That's just, part of the process. And I think, honestly, some of the small-mindedness of the OfferPad experience, if you ask me. But I think that the reason why I went off on that tangent and share that is because you agents out there need to be aware of that, right? Like these guys, they're trying to position themselves to take advantage of your clients in certain cases.
Well, on the flip side, I'm sure they probably did an inspection, and they have some employees that are working. Obviously,
Sure.
they have massive overhead,
Sure.
and that's why we're able to give such a high price, because we don't have the overhead.
We don't have
a bunch
500
of employees. We have an agent. You, the agent that has the Zoodealio software. You are the workforce.
Right.
You're
That's
getting
one of the-
paid.
that's one of the exchanges.
Your commission, the 6% commission. So,
Well, we just see it as a way for agents to really stay relevant, because here's the reality. And I'm reading an article off of Inman. This was published February 26th, so just a few days ago. And it says 50% of agents will be gone in the next 5 years.
That is insane.
That is the prediction, and the prediction is.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah,
So-
I'm kind of glad
Whoa,
because
whoa, back up. Wait
I
a
will.
sec. You're glad?
Well, I'm going to challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me,
Is it?
and for even our listeners, they obviously take this as a profession, and they're a little bit, they're not the toe dabblers, right?
Yeah, but
So if
see
you're
that
the top
50%,
50%,
the 50% is going to be the ones that
Exactly.
do one deal a year and they're horrible.
Okay,
Quite honestly.
wait a sec. We do have some agents that do one deal a year, and they're not horrible. They're great. They're fantastic. So you can't put everybody in that bucket. But I get what you're saying. By and large,
By and
is-
large, the ones that do one deal a year are horrible.
They don't.
There are a few that do one deal a year and aren't horrible, but those are not very many. I mean, that's not the
Well,
that's
one
not the
deal a
majority.
year. One deal a year. This, unless you have your hands in certain other things within the industry, one deal a year you obviously cannot live on, right? Like that's not enough to take care of it. You're gonna have to have income sources, whether it be from yourself, your spouse, or investments, etc. Right? So, but that agent that does do one deal a year, but they have a bunch of other real estate investments that are paying them. I'll challenge that they're going to be
Sure,
on-
they'll
on
probably
the-
be
on
good.
the up and up.
They'll probably be good because they're available and
Right.
they know the market. They have their beat on the market because they're investors. They,
Right, exactly. They're doing their homework.
They're managing their own portfolios and that sort of thing. And those are the ones. But those are not the majority of the ones.
No.
They're one deal a year.
So-
I mean, that's why we have a
Those are your
a
those are-
dropout rate as real estate agents.
95%
95%. So
Yep,
and I mean we
within
get
3
we get
years.
the school list, and there's
massive.
hundreds and hundreds of new agents coming through and getting their license,
unbelievable.
and 95% of those are going to be like gone in a year, but they'll all do one deal a year in that first year, and they'll be out of the business.
So another way that I'm looking at it from that could help the industry is when you go through your CE credits and you take any classes that has to do with lawsuits. Those are fun because you're like, oh my gosh, this is really happening in our industry. And the majority of the people who are in a lawsuit are people who do very little deals a year because they screw it up. They don't represent their client the way that they truly need to because they potentially have other things going on. They're not experienced. They don't understand the deal, the contract. And if that ends up being the case, I think that aspect of our industry will dramatically reduce for lawsuits. The fiduciary will probably go way up.
Yep.
And I mean, let's face the facts. As long as I've been doing this, I've been told in my face, even when I like what you have to offer, but I still don't like real estate agents.
Yep.
They've
Sure,
been
yeah.
burned so bad. That's where
Yeah.
where the for sale by owner comes from. Period. Like probably 90+% of all for sale by owners, they do it not only just to save the commission. They see no value in the real estate agent because they've tried it and it didn't work.
Right.
And it probably came from somebody who didn't do 100 deals a year that had a badass system and processes in place, where everybody was, was dialed in. So anyway, I could see it as a plus side, but yes, it is kind of sad at the same time because, I do think there's some great agents in the space that do a couple deals a year. They really enjoy it. They have their own little sphere. They do a couple deals a year, and they do an absolutely phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But when they're, as that keeps going down, people are going to want to pay $1,050. In 5 years from now, our dues are probably going to be $1,500
Yep.
a year plus,
Probably more.
or
But
more.
that's okay though, because guess
So
what?
that's going to weed people out too.
It's now 110. Well, let's just say by then it'll be 110,000 transactions a year being spread out between to 30,000
Half of the agents.
Exactly.
Well, here's-
I'll take that.
Deal.
I'll take that deal.
Good
Here's the
deal.
prediction. The prediction is 5 years from now, half of agents will be gone. The remaining will be in one of 3 buckets. The first will be for employees for Zillow, Redfin, Open Door, etc. Second will be some of the large powerhouse brands that they predict to remain: Compass, Keller Williams, Remax, EXP. A lot of buzz around EXP and what's going to happen there. But the third bucket will be indie brokerages. So brokerages that can differentiate
Yep.
and maybe offer
Some special offers.
niche product offerings.
pure luxury homes. Yeah.
Yep.
Commercials.
So that's the
Very cool.
prediction. Who knows? I think here's the thing. They've been saying that we're going to have a weed out for a long time.
Long time.
We were
It
supposed
just seems like it's growing.
exactly. We were supposed to have a weed out during the foreclosure tsunami, and maybe we did for a bit, but
Yeah.
It
it
did.
rebounded.
It sure did.
I
Yeah,
think-
it's because people chase the money, right?
It's
And once
coming
it-
back in a big way right now too. Because I mean, we like I said, we get the lists, and the lists are very bloated right now.
Well, because what they're hearing is like, oh, do you see, how easy
Yep.
it is to sell a house right now?
Yep.
I guarantee you that's
Sell my
Which
own
it's-
house,
it's honestly-
500,000. I don't have to pay 15 grand. I'll
It's
go get my
sharper than
license.
ever. That's totally what's going on, right? Like, let's just say it's roughly $1,000 to go get your license and pay all the fees, etc., or pay 15 grand.
Yeah.
Or you could just go into Homey and, pay $1,000
Get
or
the
$2,000.
Homey.
Or
$2,000
Rex, or you could even do a FSBO, right, or for sale by owner, right? Like you don't have to be a licensed agent.
But these models
flat fees.
they've been around forever. It's nothing
Yep.
new. I think
Remember
that's
the what was it?
it used to be like assist to sell.
Assist to sell. That's
help
right.
you sell.
So,
Yep.
Here's
Yep.
why I think it's going to change. It's just like anything else. One, if you keep putting it out there over and over and over and over, regardless of it being true, it starts being adopted. One, that's psychology number one. Two, these large tech companies, they're going to force the change. They're dumping so much money in the industry. The change is inevitable at this point. The trajectory has already started. The only way for the trajectory to change is for the 50% of people who are going to statistically may not be here in 5 years to get off your ass and start doing more deals, have a good
Massive
system in
action,
place, and compete with these people.
Yep.
That's how the change is going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the other beauties of the internet, right? It's provided a spotlight for the average consumer to put on their agent, right? They can't walk into a listing and BS it, right? Like 15 years ago, back in the day when you kind of could have, and you can boast and say things that necessarily weren't all there. Where now it's all tracked and
I
traced to a
remember
degree.
losing a listing like 4 years ago, and I asked them why. Like, oh, because they were going to offer me like a free home warranty up front and put a sign out, and I'm like, I could have done that too, but it just wasn't a part of my listing presentation. I don't even think that would be relevant today.
That's why listing presentations became 4 hours long
Yeah.
because we had to drop every
gosh.
feature and benefit.
And so
I
it's
don't
just
miss
funny.
those days.
Yeah.
I think another thing too that I was just reading about recently yet again was Zillow is the one who did this huge study on the synchro seller is what they call it, right? Somebody who's going to buy and sell a house in the course of the next year, where it's 61% of the people that are selling a house in today's market are going to turn around and buy a house. And the reason why I think that's so important, especially, I'll speak, to our hyper local market right now, is I'm a big believer of that's 80% of our inventory issues right now is the sellers won't sell because they have nowhere to go. So being able to provide them a solution of certainty that they're going to have somewhere to go and be able to remove the contingency, right? Like I think we're going to continue to see these types of environments come in, and you're going to not only have to provide that, you're going to have to have an expert plan and just a guided process around this whole thing, because again, we all know what a stressful process it is to buy a house, period, let alone when you're doing them together.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, we're getting
Well,
close.
I'd like to end with a quick plug. So all your agents that are listening out here that want to get more involved and have these really cool programs to offer your clients, go to Zoodealio.com. You can view a free live demo on the website at your own leisure, or schedule a free live demo, and we'll do it live and answer any questions that you have. And we hope to see you there. Let's get rocking.
Yeah.
Love it. Thanks for listening.
We truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today on the iBuyer Experiment podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe so that you're notified when we launch new podcasts. We'll catch you on the next one.
Show you the money.